Patreon thing off. Hey everybody, hold on. I have noise. I have noise on my screen. I must deal with it. There we go. Much better. Hi, welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host, Ann. Disembodied Hands, Quinty, Disembodied Beard, John, and I don't know. I need a third person. I miss not having a Justin or a Kiki or a something. You guys are drinking way too much caffeine. It was a while ago, Twisted Oma. We put her aside way back in October in order to swap in Halloween models. So it was a while ago. We haven't seen her for, let's see, it's March now, so we haven't seen her for 6 months. Yes, but I need somebody who's consistently actually here. Aw, that was a low blow, Shadow Raven. You're almost always here. And Kodiak is almost always here or always here. It's just sometimes Kodiak doesn't show up till later and sometimes you don't either. I don't know. I'll pick a random regular person. That's true. I should just like have a random encounter table with all your names on it. And just use that, right? Just use that. I think that sounds lovely. Lovely. Hold on. There we go. Excellent. I'll let Justin know he's ruined your intro. Yes. Hey, Nomad Zeke, thank you. Resub 54 months. Insane. Really good. Yeah, good. Excellent, excellent. Yeah, so we're going to work on Jolie because I didn't want to start a new model yet, and I wasn't sure on the basing for the Mises. Still thinking about basing for the Mises. Mies basing. Like, I might, because I ended up liking them both so much, I might have the oomph to do a bigger base for them. But yeah, because I don't have an idea yet. My brain takes a while to think around things. You guys have noticed this. This is a strength. This is called intellection. It's the thinky strength, as I call it. But what it means is that sometimes I need to mull over an idea for quite a while before I settle on something I want to do. And instead of like getting frustrated with this, I've just learned to embrace it. So that means that it gets to go off to the side and kind of sit there and stare at me for a while. Yes, declearment is a random encounter. I was just thinking about you yesterday. Because somebody had somebody had 18 months and the next person had a 38 months. And I'm like, hey, 50, where's the 58 months? I'm like, declearment. Although you may be back past that by now, right? I don't know. I don't know what month you're on. It's pretty crazy, whatever it is. But yes. Oh, table and board game for your Mises. That's funny. Yes, that's blaming Quinty. Blaming Quinty is correct. Oh. Alrighty, so yeah, we're going to work on her today. We need to do non-metallic metal, we need to do eyes, we need to do, I feel like the cream, the cream is highlighted. We need to do the book, but I'm not sure what I want to do for her book yet. I think maybe I want to do spoof on a regular book, but I can't decide. I'm not there yet. Yeah, we're pretty far along. All right. Yeah, it looks like I was very close to finishing the gold, so I probably need to do that just because get it out of the way. So let's do that. Let's get this bottom border done. The little spectacle view goggle thing there. Around her lenses up top, that kind of thing. Let's do that. Hey, Daffodil, there's the 53 months. Bringing down the hammer. 14 days to the 59th month. Wow. You're almost to 60. That's insane. That's a pentuple subversary. Right? 12 times 5 is 60. That's like, wow. That would be our first pentuple subiversary. Quintuple or quintuple? Pentuple? Quintuple? I don't know. Why is it quintuplets and not pentuplets? I don't understand. I don't understand. That's what I'm feeling today. That's my day. Yeah, this model, she's got like some complicated bits for sure. All right, well, let's get some M&Ms. Let's get our M&Ms mixed up so we can talk and paint at the same time. M&Ms. Oh, 7 days to 59 there. Kaz is chasing you, D. Clearman. But yeah, why is it quintuplets instead of pentuplets? Now I have to Google this. Maybe quin is the correct thing. Aha! It's actually a Reddit question. Ah, it's from Latin, not Greek. Okay. So it's all Latin instead of Greek. Wow. Okay. Wow, and a lot of people popped in on that with the exact same answer. Yep. Yes, I chose to look at the internet instead of my chat. Sorry, guys. Mostly because I like to ask the wider internet such silly questions. It's still annoying, okay? It's still annoying. Because pentaversary is far, like, easier than quintiversary. Quintupiversary. It's probably a quintiversary. Although now I need to look. Ah, okay. So it would have been a tetra. Actually, I should have been using Greek all along. Greek sounds so much cooler. Tetraversary? That sounds awesome instead of quadrupleversary. Like, tetraversary is fantastic. Or triversary. Hexaversary. Oh, man, I might have to switch it, guys. I might have to switch it. That sounds so much cooler. I reserve the right. Yeah, Kodiak. Yeah. Yep, get the answer on Reddit. Yep. Because despite it also being a lot of opinions and trolling, just like the regular internet, Reddit also has people who are honestly just trying to answer the question. They haven't been scared off yet like they were on Quora. Although I see it going that way. I do see it going that way. Because just like it's interesting too, it's a social dynamic. And it kind of just depends. But like, people will shout down like sources of information that aren't like generally accepted by the community, even if the sources are correct. But so far Reddit seems to still be full of actual information. It's refreshing. I need to order more brown liner. Must order brown liner. Now that Ron has given me all of the awesome credit cash, Reaper bucks, I need more brown liner. There. Excellent. Yeah, Quora is so bad now. It's a shame, too. Like, I was reading it for a while since Mercedes Lackey was on the writer's Quora. And she still is, I believe, but it's the rare gem of good peeps on Quora. Speaking of which, I decided to, like, shell out for really, really good writing coaching since my micro coaching was going well. So I've been working with the actual head coach, Becca, the person who I originally followed and read the book of. Boy, she's good. She has me thinking about stuff that I never thought about, but which is, like, in hindsight, so important. Like, why don't we have mini painting coaches like this? Like, and it's funny, right? Okay, because I think, like many people, I entered into this coaching thing with an expectation of this person's going to tell me what I need to do to be better at stuff, right? But in having my coaching with Becca this month, I have realized that the best coaches don't do that. The best coaches ask you questions about your process that lead you to understand how you can do stuff better. Pretty crazy, huh? Like, it's a big difference. Oh yeah, if I order, maybe I'll get it. Oh yeah, I'm sure that there are certain subreddits that have tons of trolls. Yeah, absolutely. It depends on what's your sticking point. What's your it might help, it might not, Grows. It just depends. Like, okay, like for first of all, what do you think what do you feel your problem is? Like, what is your point of dissatisfaction? Light placement is your main problem. And have you tried to use zenith priming? Because the wet blending can help you. But if you have a problem imagining light placing, then wet blending might not be the best immediate solution. But I guess my question remains, have you tried zenith priming? And if so, how did you feel when you did it? Actually, let's get my colors here so you guys can watch me mix. I actually made my rich leather a little darker by mixing in some, this is a 50-50 russet brown liner mixture, which I really enjoy. Okay, but you haven't actually, you don't have an airbrush. I see. All right, fair. And when you try to highlight normally, you just feel like you're getting your placement wrong, and you feel like maybe loosening up with the wet palette will allow you to change that or adjust that a little bit more? Is that what I'm kind of hearing, or is that different? You could also try sketch. You know. And with the wet palette, I mean. Instead of, you can try to do your, are you planning to do a value sketch? Is that what you're talking about? You're going to do a black and white underpaint, or are you just going to start blocking in colors and trying to get your light that way? So as you can see, by mixing rich leather and the lantern yellow, we do get a color that's very close to a yellow oxide. I'm going to drop just a little bit of white in there, just a tiny bit, because the coverage isn't going to be very good if I don't. No, it's not. The simulating it with dry brushing, I don't believe, because the problem is, in order to simulate it with dry brushing, you actually have to understand lighting, and that's the problem. You can get roughly an idea by brushing straight down the model, but that's only ever going to give you a zenith. And it's not really going to help you visualize necessarily directed lighting, depending. I mean, some people might make the connection from that. Obviously, everybody's different. Okay, so I'm going to put just a little bit of white off of my brush into there, and that's going to make my paint more opaque. Now we'll do a highlight. Black and white sketching is nice because it's easy to adjust. And you can absolutely, well, that's what we do with Orc, right? You guys remember Orc? I don't know where I stuffed it. I think I stuffed him in the other room. I don't know that he's still in this room with me. Orc, are you here? Oh, maybe you are. Are you? Yeah, you are. You're hiding. You're hiding, but you're here. Boop. This guy. That's exactly what I'm doing, right? Is I'm just sketching in. And then if I mess it up or I don't like it, it's the easiest thing in the world to paint over it. Yes. And Laura has, you have a good point too, although Desk Lamp can also suffers from the fact that it's larger than the miniature, so it can be hard to do imagine directed lighting from that, but that's fine. You can also just use a white primer Kuro and just a strong light. You don't really need to make it wet, but if you do, it's gonna probably be better at showing you things like NMM. Right, yeah, black and white. But yeah, so it's nice because white is high coverage and black is high coverage, so usually, although you have to build up the white a little bit more to get it to go over the top, but corrections are usually very easy. So you can look at it, and you usually can get a pretty good look at it, and you absolutely can just glaze, heavily glaze. Like, use a thin base coat that you can actually see a little bit through, and you'll retain a lot of your zenith when you put a color over the top. And that should help you. I'm a fan of Sketch. Like, it's working out well on Mr. Orc. So my yellow is a little bit not as intense as I would like it, so I'm going to drop some more lantern into it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for NMM, having a wet or shiny surface is good. You could also just base coat those areas in like a shiny silver metallic and take pictures. And then do prime over the top or whatever you're going to do. Or if you're working with a metal model, it's easier than anything. You just take pictures of it while it's still metal before you prime. There we go. My problem with sketching minis is I find that I tend to take a really long time at it because I just get in my pencil sketch mode from my 2D art days. And then I finished my model with like it's a pencil sketch. It looks like pencil. I should just paint some models like that. I should just embrace it. I should use like a graphite gray. I should do carbon gray. And just a tiny bit of black for the very, very small areas that I would really be bearing down on with the pencil. And I should just do a pencil mini. Make it look like it's a pencil drawing. What do you guys think? Would that be fun? Do something really, really crazy, pencil-y and monochrome. It would take super thin brush strokes. I'd have to do a lot of cross-hatching. I'd need to pick the right model, for sure. Probably something noir. Noir or horror. Alrighty, let's get some of this gold done. Boop. I don't think I would do that, Shadow Raven, because Izzy does, you know, a lot of Izzy's work has to be faster. There are very few pieces that I have in Izzy, like a fully finished pencil work, so I'm not looking to do it like a sketch. I'm looking to make it look like a finished pencil work. So, like, Oh, yay. I think I sent my mom flowers for her birthday today. I think she just got them. What have I got? So I'm looking at something more like making it look, you know, making it look more like that. That's very different from, that's actually charcoal. So let's find a pure pencil here. Graphite. So, you know, something in pencil, but that's finished in pencil. And Izzy's stuff isn't like that, because usually Izzy is working on a deadline and does not have the time to do finished work on deadline. Yeah, I've only seen a couple of pieces from Izzy that they had time to finish out. Oh, I just throw a bunch of stuff together, Time Buster. I used, for that, I just grabbed a bunch of old basing stuff and I dumped it all in a tub together. So it's got green, it's got a couple of different colors of static grass. It's got some, like, sawdust type flocking in there, like the green stuff that Games Workshop used to put out. It's got some fine flock, like that foam, the crushed for the tiny particulate bits of foam. It's got that in there, and I feel like that really helps to bulk out the mix. It's got a little bit of sand in there as well, a fairly fine sand. And it's got a jar of like oregano that was ancient, so it wasn't, it didn't have scent anymore, so it got dumped in. If I'm going to use a twig, I'm going to place one intentionally, and the thing that I use is called Deadfall. It's from Woodland Scenics, and it's tiny twigs, but they look like branches when you put them on miniature bases. If you really want to do something to scale, I would look for an herb that has the kind of effect you're looking for and use that, but I don't know the oregano has because twigs are so small that on a base you wouldn't really see them. I guess my oregano did give me some. So like if you look, you can see these longer bits. That's from the oregano, from the herbs. You could also throw some rosemary in. They're long. So like I've got a couple of these little longer bits. See, and those would look kind of like twigs. All of this is from the herbs that I just dumped in here. Like that one. All these bigger pieces. So I did get a fair amount of stuff like that in there. But yeah, twigs, I only use like the deadfall. Yeah, it is good flock. Totally accidental mix, but if I ran out of her, I would make a new one. No, I haven't. Maybe I should. Any herb can be a decent in a basing mixture, Polly. I would mix it into something like I have there, like a conglomerate of a whole bunch of different stuff. Yeah, and herbal teas could be. I drink my herbal teas. I wouldn't use them in basing. I would consume them. Nom nom. So all right, let's get some of this going on. I got distracted. Yeah, walk through the herb aisle at your supermarket and see what might be a good, and then look at what's on sale. There are all sorts of different. So we're gonna put a little bit of highlight up there. We're gonna throw some shadow in there. Yeah, I'd have to look up all the components that I put in mine, Laura. It's a good idea, though. I mean, it's homemade and it's not homemade. Because, you know, there's some things, obviously you can use herbs for some of it, but some of it is bought materials. Not very expensive bought materials. I mean, that foam flock is super cheap. Last I checked. But yeah, I think mine was oregano. It was either Italian herb or oregano. Could also look at bulk spice places. The closest I've come is like some Indian grocery stores will have big bulk bags of things like za'atar, although you wouldn't want to use za'atar because the sesame seeds would be very evident as sesame seeds. But, you know, that kind of thing. Look for bulk spices for sale. I'm going to alternate a little bit here. But yeah, you still do need to... It would be more like a custom basing mix rather than homemade basing mix. So I'm putting a couple of alternating patches of dark on this. Just going to see how it looks. I'm going to shrink those down a little bit though. And then we'll bring it up again down here. Yeah, the used coffee definitely is better as compost, I think. Coffee grounds just... But like old herbs or tea, I suppose you could use it. It's all up to what you want to do and what effect you want to do, or if you're just looking for cheap basing materials and you don't really care what they look like or they look good enough. It's all fair. Doing just a real quick kind of edge highlight up here. There we go. Yeah, the thing there is you should brush glue over the top of like static grass and then put that powder on there and then shake it off and it should adhere to the tops and give you that illusion. It depends on scale. It's for a very small scale. I think that's more effective for a railroading scale. Some of the smaller railroading scales. I made lamb shanks last night and it was quite the trial. Even though I used the Instant Pot. It made many dishes. And the lamb shanks were immense. Like, I have never bought lamb shanks from Costco before. These things were monstrous. I'm used to the ones I get from like Sprouts. I haven't done them for quite a while. Because I stopped going to Sprouts when they closed my local location. But man, these were monstrous. Like, we're gonna get another dinner out of them. I've learned that the food at Costco is way too big usually for David and I. Unless it's freezable, it's just not gonna work. But I took a chance on the lamb shanks. I tried lamb I don't remember what, I think it was my favorite restaurant in Santa Fe, Quindy, which is Jumbo's, which is actually like an African and like West Indies fusion restaurant. I think that place is the best kept secret in Santa Fe. Everybody just goes downtown to one of the Santa Fe Mexican places, but oh my god. But they had a Mediterranean. That's my curry cinnamon lamb stew. I tried it at the restaurant, and I just, like, it so blew my mind that I immediately, like, I hauled leftovers back to the house we were staying in with me, and then the next morning I sat down and I, like, tasted and smelled, and I made a list of ingredients, and when we got home, I went online and I copycatted the heck out of that stew. So I can reproduce it at any time. And since that time, I have gone back to that restaurant in Santa Fe and ordered that stew just to make sure I'm on point. And that was my first experience with lamb, and then I was sold. Like, I still prefer that stew over, like, just eating, like, lamb shank or like, although I do make a kick butt lamb meatballs. Lammy balls. Lammy balls are tasty. With tzatziki. Those are so good. The cats know better. They're like, that's gross. Why do you people do that? Why don't you just use our cat litter? But yeah, so curry cinnamon lamb stew. So I was obsessed about that stew, and I copycatted it successfully, and that's still my favorite use of lamb. But every once in a while, just to mix up like what we're eating, because I don't want to get into too much of a rut with it, I try to have different sources of protein. But, yeah. But the curry cinnamon lamb stew is, I think it's technically Moroccan, and it's just really good. Really freaking good. Lamb definitely has a different flavor, and I know not everybody likes it, but in certain applications, I think it's excellent. I definitely, if it's just like lamb chops, I definitely prefer a steak, I would say. Although the fact that you get to have tzatziki with the lamb kind of makes it, if you're a tzatziki fiend, which I kind of am. I used to just eat that stuff on crackers. Oh yeah, Caribbean chicken stew is good. That's close. That I don't know, like, how you keep your girlish figure curly when you're eating that. Like, I would be like, if that was my lunch every day, I would be like 1,500 pounds in no time. But that sounds totally tasty. I love empanadas. It's one of the rare times I allow myself to glutenate. But yeah, Caribbean chicken kick butt. Sounds awesome. Yeah, I just ate breakfast. I'm really not hungry. Oh, speaking of which, guys, we have to actually end a little tiny bit early today. Keekster has a vet appointment. She needs to go to the vet. She is continued having small bits of vomiting. And I want to make sure she doesn't have an infection or something. So we're going to haul her in and have the vet check her over. Yeah, she didn't wake us up barf this morning. She actually barfed after David got her outside. But still, she's young, and she's like, I don't know if she just ate something, or if there's the dog flu, or if she's got an infection or something. So I'm just going to have them look at the doglet. I got lucky that they just had a cancellation, so I could sneak her in today. So we're mostly going to just be very predictable about the folds here. We're going to just keep the shadows In the creases, we're going to keep the highlights at the top. The difference is that instead of really blending up to highlights, we're mostly going to do tiny spot highlights of white to try to suggest that we've got some shine there. Yeah, I have no idea. I mean, she's otherwise fine. I don't start to worry unless the dog's demeanor changes. Her energy has been a little lower, which you'd expect if she's not feeling great. But she's not like she's listless or anything. After you've had as many dogs as I have, you just like, you know how to, you know when it's emergency and when it's not emergency. And she's still like her regular Kiki self. So, but I want them to check for a couple things, so. A little bit of extra shadow in here and there. So. Then I've got to reshoot a video today. I did my color theory, like, very small intro to color theory, part 1, yesterday. It's going to be for the YouTube, and there'll be a PDF on my Patreon at the $2 level for it. Just like a little beginning color theory intro. The first one in a series. But I wasn't happy about it, because the problem is that if I don't watch myself, I definitely expand on the topic too much, and then the video gets way too long, and it also isn't, it could be confusing for a newbie, so I'm going to reshoot it with fewer example models and keep myself on task a little better. The problem is I just want to go crazy because it's color theory, and then I go a little bit too crazy. I don't want my little beginner YouTubers to, like, you know, have their eyes bug out and their heads explode on my first video. It's not really a good look for me. Alright, so we definitely have like kind of an overlaid kind of ruffle here on the bottom, upper and lower sections. I think we've got some nice shadows laid in, so we'll start our highlights. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, because it's behavior change that you're looking for. Kiki's behavior hasn't really changed. She's gotten a little bit more subdued, but just like a tiny bit. But actually she's even a little bit better today. Like, it was almost a full 24 hours between barfs between yesterday and today. So, but that always happens. The minute you make the vet appointment is the minute they start getting better. David's like, are you just going to cost us a $200 vet bill, Kiki? And I was just like, yep. That do be how it goes. Because her appetite's still good. She was maybe a little slow. She didn't vacuum her food like this morning, but she definitely ate it in a decent time frame. And she went to check it to see if there was more after she ate it, which is a Kiki thing. I think it's so funny when they go to check the dish just to make sure that they didn't leave some. It's so funny. Yeah, yeah. It's the optimistic dog. She's like, is there more? Is there more? Did more suddenly appear? Yeah, I mean, I don't expect it to be $200, but you just never know. If they do a blood test, then it's over. But yeah, I mean, it is expensive here in California. But I mean, it's not like it was cheaper in Texas. It was still expensive in Texas. We used to make jokes about putting our vet interns through vet school. Yeah. Well, and even then, it's going to be over 100, right? The minute the blood test comes out, even if it's in-house, you are now talking 150 to 200 bucks, because you're also going to pay for the office visit and anything else they do. I might make these little cutouts. I don't really like them in the white. I think I was thinking about leaving them cream, but I think I'm going to do them in the red, which is our accent color, instead. That'll be a little bit better. We'd only have the red ribbon and the red hair on the front, so having a couple of dots of red down here would be kind of nice. And then it lets me put red down here on the bottom as well. So yeah. I think I'll need a liner or two. I need some lining around this gold. I need it to be a little tighter. I think I'm going to grab walnut for this one. I want it dark. Hey, Richard. So my book is over the 30K mark now. We are almost to the midpoint. My writing speed usually increases after the midpoint. Was just talking about my coach about that this morning. She said it was very common. Very common for people with the thinky strength. The thinky strength likes to know where it's going before it starts really spewing out the content, apparently. But yeah, I've already gotten a lot of insight into my writing vibe out of these coaching sessions. Which is nice because, you know, left to my own devices without people asking me these questions and giving me this information, it would have taken me years to figure this out. And instead, I'm going to have a very good idea of my general process, you know, within 6 months of starting coaching. Richard, maybe, I would really like to have it out by the end of May because originally I said spring. So... originally, I know I was talking much earlier, but it's just not worked out that way. I would say April, later in April. My hope is to get it completely drafted by the beginning of April, and then get it to you guys the second half of April, and then have time for integrating feedback and edits, and then have it out sometime in May. How about you, Turgeon? Are you in chat? I haven't seen whether Turgeon is in chat. Oh my gosh, Cornico. Yeah, that would have made me switch my vet too. Oh, good, Laura. You've been making slow progress. That's good. That's good. Eventually you'll finish it, and then I can beg you for a review. Yeah, I haven't ever done coaching. Okay, good, good, good. Second half of April. Let's plan for that, guys. Richard and Zachariah. Let's plan for beta reading the second half of April. I'll use that to give myself a little bit of external pressure to keep moving well on the book. And after that, guys, I was talking to my coach about this, and she's like, because the problem, deadlines just make me freak out a little bit. it turns out. It turns out I'm not alone in this. But I think I'm actually going to be more productive if I don't set another anticipated release date for the next book. I think I'm going to be better off just saying I'm just going to work, and you guys will get it when you get it, and you'll likely get at least 2 books a year, but one of those guaranteed to be Bear Kings. I originally wanted to see if I could do at least 2 Bear Kings books a year, but I also want to make time for like my fun projects, because writing is not my job, my main job. So I want to make sure that I still have time just for fun little side writing projects like the werewolf romance and, you know, anything else I feel like doing. Like my cozy progression fantasy that I've been working on ideas for. Finishing up my little, like, I don't know if it's a paranormal romance or a urban fantasy. Finishing up that thing, that fairy, that fae thing that I wrote a while ago and editing it and getting a second book on it. You know. Yeah, it's just, the other thing is that my brain tends to shut down if there's too much stress, Richard. And so a deadline, I think you're right, and I think that if I set the deadline once I'm, like, past the midpoint of the book, once I clearly have the idea of the book, once I'm on that home stretch, because I tend to go a lot faster when I'm toward the end of the book, because I know what's coming, and it's just like the ideas are just like zoom, it's like all just coming out. But I'm very slow on the start, and then I can feel really pressured and panicky because I'll be like, oh no, I committed to a deadline, but this is going so slow, what if it never speeds up, right? And that's just going to feed into a vicious, like, fear feedback loop of disappointing people and missing deadlines. And so I think it really is going to be a, you know, you guys on the stream will get updates, and I'm going to just steadily work, and I'm going to see if taking deadlines completely out of the picture actually makes me a more productive person, which is an interesting thought. I'll probably still have like a little brain thought of when I might like to get any given book done by, but I'm going to leave room also where if I get hung up on the story, I can switch to a different project for a little while I figure out the first one, which is what I do for my Patreon. Is I work on the thing that I've got the best idea for, and if I get stuck, then I put it aside for, you know, a week and work on something else while I figure out the first problem. So kind of using like the ideas of what helped me keep my Patreon moving and adapting those things to my novel writing. But yeah, this book moving so slow at the beginning, and also I just was kind of in panic mode, as I was just discussing kind of for the first part. Plus I had all that medical stuff I had planned, and that threw me off. And so yeah, it's just stuff. And because it isn't my main job, I can't just drop everything to make a deadline. I can't just kick the Patreon to the curb and work on a book. That just doesn't work. So I'm going to put little spot white highlights on the upper surfaces here to see if I can get that shimmery look that you see. Yeah, well, it's kind of a love-hate relationship with me. Kuro, they can definitely inspire me to go above and beyond, like NaNoWriMo. And for a lot of people, if they don't have a deadline, they won't commit, right? That's the thing. A deadline is a commitment tool. And once you understand that, you maybe understand, and I've come to understand this book, actually, probably one of the biggest insights I've gotten, is that it wasn't necessarily, like, the deadline wasn't the good tool for me. It was committing to one project. Like, instead of wobbling around, wondering if I was working on the thing I should really be working on, which is something that I did there, because I originally thought maybe I would do some work on the progression fantasy before I got into book 3. But my failure to just wholeheartedly commit, to just sit down and say, this is the goal. Sometimes our brains just need us to make a goal instead of waffling forever. right? If I waffle, I'm not going anywhere. But if I say, no, this is the goal, then my brain might question me for about a week. But after a week of working on that goal consistently, my brain will be like, oh, this is the goal. Okay. And it'll stop freaking out. And that's not true for everybody. As with everything, there is, your brain may not work like my brain. Probably doesn't, as a matter of fact. But yeah, sometimes it's just like defining the goal is more important than an arbitrary date. And an arbitrary date creates stress for me unless I'm very, very close to done with the book. So if you want to get things done and you feel like you need a deadline, but then they never work out for you, consider if it's just that you haven't committed to one project. If you're still kind of waffling around, not sure that you should be working on X or Y. Because sometimes that can hang you up. And you don't actually need a deadline. You just need to decide. Decide, this is what I'm working on for the next week. It doesn't have to be forever. It just has to be you need to commit to that goal for a week. And it's not easy for some of us to do that. Sometimes our brains just want to immediately get bored. And it's just them kind of throwing a temper tantrum because we're not letting them run around and play with everything all the time. But it depends on, and then it just depends on what's more important to you. Is it more important to you to just stay in your comfort zone, even if it means, that you don't get a lot done? Or is getting stuff done more important to you and you're just like, you know what? I'm going to make myself work on this for a week and just shut up, brain, shut up. Sit over here in the corner, play with something else, and just let me do my thing. Yeah, and it's different. It's different there, setting a date goal versus a model goal, right? And like I said, you don't have to set a goal to finish. You could have as simple a goal as, I'm going to sit here this week and we're going to work on the face for this bust. And we're just going to work on it a little bit every night. And if I finish it, then I'll just go work on whatever I want to. And if I don't finish it, I'm just going to, commit to working on it for this week. And then when that's done, I can work on whatever I want. But for me, I think, and it's going to be interesting to see because I do like to flop around depending on my level of inspiration. But I also depend very much, I've learned, on momentum. So if I work on a project and I keep working on that project, I will slowly actually get more and more out of my painting time or my writing time. If I keep consistently working on one thing. Momentum is a thing for me. So then I have to question, whether it is really valuable for me to keep flopping around from stuff to stuff, or if shorter commitment periods are better for me. Because at least any commitment period will allow me to benefit from that momentum. I would say that probably for momentum to build, you need at least a few days working on one project. For me, I'm a little bit of a slow starter. Some of you wouldn't be. But because I'm a little bit of a slow starter when I'm getting into a groove on a model or a book, I find that usually it's third or fourth day it starts to pick up. So if I'm going to commit to a project, say I should do it at least weekly. Oh, good, Kerniko. Yay! Well, nope. Yeah, that's a good one. Good job. Yeah, most people hear deadline and they immediately think date. But yeah, it's not necessarily. It's just a commitment. A deadline could be, I'm going to work on this till I finish the face. I'm going to work on this until I finish the gown or the armor or the whatever, right? However you need to do it, figure and pay attention to your gut feelings on this and stuff, and pay attention to how much progress you make, right? The best thing you can do is to kind of observe yourself while you're going through something like this and say, has this been useful for me? Like, if despite you whining about it all the time, you get a lot done in that week, then you know that, you know, the gimmick works for you, and the whininess is just part of you that wants to go running off and playing in the daisies, right? A lot of us have that. A lot of us have that learner brain that always wants to be working on something new and shiny and the new fresh project, right? And sometimes that's just something that you have to, like, you know, praise that little kid in your brain for wanting to keep things fun, but then tell it, but we're going to work on this model today. And if it won't stop whining, then, just like my PDF said, distract it. Put on a podcast or a TV show or whatever, something while you paint. You can't really do that with writing, sadly. You kind of have to be in the story to do it. So that particular tactic, the distraction tactic, does not work for writers, which is, of course, the bane of many writers. They always complain that they get distracted. Because sometimes with writing, you just have to sit through it. You just have to sit there with your work and do it. Like, that's just it. That's why more people don't write novels. Or rather, I should say, that's why more people don't finish novels. Send them our way, we'll put them straight. I mean, just be like, no, I'm sorry, I've got other things to do, then it's too short notice. I mean, if it's something you would otherwise like to paint, guess what? You could always get a copy and paint it yourself. And then you'll have a painted copy. Okay, so we've got this all looking nice and shimmery. You can see how doing those little spot white highlights and making sure that the folds were darker. Whenever you bring something up to white, you tend to get that look. So that's nice, and that worked out quite well. Let's see here. I think I want to do the red. I want to take the white up and actually highlight the edges of this book. Well, but that makes a great story, Kuro. Just don't consider it an analogy for your life, okay? As long as you don't take that one to heart, I think you're okay. It could be dangerous to take that as a analogy for living, climbing up the wrong side of the mountain. Although I guess some people do live their lives that way. Doing a little bit of edging here. The Skyrim. Yes, the Skyrim mountain climbing method. Yes, absolutely. Wait, there was an easier way? Wait, there was a lift or a staircase? Oh, well. It's like when you treat all aspects of life as a jumping puzzle. But yeah, after this book is done, I'm probably going to take a break from Bear Kings for at least a month and work on something else. I've been thinking a lot about the Fae book that I wrote. The Fae Urban Fantasy. And the fact that it's like done, but it needs a rework. Like, I was just thinking about that book the other day and thought that I might have an idea for the second book. It would just be like a 2-book series. Nothing big, just a little fun project. It's a little bit more romance than any of my other stuff, because the character was just like that. It has a cute baby gargoyle in it. Because, you know, without the critters, I am nothing. You guys can expect critters in all of my books, period. There we go. So a little bit more white, brightening up that page a little bit. You like the staircase going down better anyway. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, critters. So I don't know. I just feel like I want to kick up my heels and do something a little different, and then I'll go back and do book, because I need time. The problem is I need time to think about book 4 for Bear Kings, since I've backed off from North of the Wind and decided I needed to write the books that filled in some of those years. So that means that if I'm going purely chronologically, oh yeah, we got that little lens thing, little magnifying glass. If I'm going purely chronologically, the next book after The Rite of Winter is actually Three Favors. It's the book about the foxes. It's what happens to Sola after she runs off with Ren. Gotta keep an eye on the time to make sure that I don't go long, because I have to get the puppa in the car. But yeah, so the next book will be the Foxes book, but I need to think about that book. Like, I know that's the next story chronologically, but I know only a few of the things that I wanted to do. So I'm gonna go and put in some of our gold, and these are such tiny little, these chain links are so tiny. I'm just really gonna touch them with a little bit of that gold highlight. And then at the very top, I'm gonna see if I can get a tiny spot white highlight. Need a little bit more on my brush. I need to get over there and climb some hills, apparently. Over into the UK sometime. I never got to Wales, and I would like to go to Wales. Even if all of the consonants and vowels are weird. So here, the back of this is very much buried against her cloth, so I'm mostly going to highlight toward the front. And I do want an under reflection, so some bounce light on the bottom. So yeah, the next book will be the Fox book, and then North of the Wind. North of the Wind goes from being book 3 to book 5. But by then I'll understand really what's happening in North of the Wind, so it'll be fine. There's just too much that goes on between the books. And the problem is that, like, the details I need to know to write the characters correctly for North of the Wind are details that I tend to discovery write. So it's not stuff I pre-plan, it's the stuff that just happens while I'm writing. And so that makes it harder. Yeah, that's how I write though, Richard. One of my strengths is called individualization, and what it generally means is that I am a very character-oriented writer. In normal stuff, in business, what individualization does is it lets you see different people's strengths and to understand like how people are different and how that's a cool thing. There's also a strength that lets you draw similarities between people and to essentially, you know, gather people together more easily because you understand how people are alike. But the individualization one is all about how individuals are different. And I regularly draw upon that when I'm doing, you know, these streams, right? I understand you guys are all different. You're going to be tackling things slightly differently. Your goals are going to be different, right? All that kind of thing. But with a writer, what that does is essentially make your fiction extremely character driven. And that means I have to know, as you say, what the characters are going to do. Not just generally, but like some of the best scenes in my books are entirely spontaneous. My brain comes up with them out of nowhere because a character has an extreme reaction to something, and then it goes from there. And it creates an entirely new thing. A new dynamic in a relationship, right? Between two characters. So yeah, in a weird way, it is like I'm playing a D&D game in my own head. But what it really means is that, you know, I mean, let's face it, my plan to write east of the sun, west of the moon, and then north of the wind was purely, you know, me before I was actually executing on all this writing thing, right? It was like my original plan from back in the day, and it totally did not survive first contact with the enemy. And I shouldn't have expected it to, right? There we go. Shiny. Shiny. Yes, and that is the superpower of individualization, is you tend to write very believable characters, right? Your characters tend to be real people. It's definitely a strength for writers. It definitely is. But the downside is my characters aren't just cardboard cutouts, which means that I need to know what happens chronologically. I can't just write the character in the future. Technically, if it was a character that I had never put in a book before, I could, because then, you know. But any time that I'm going to be talking about characters that are already established, I'm going to need that transition time to figure out how they've changed. Like, I couldn't go, because North of the Wind, by the start of North of the Wind, Ash is essentially, well, I don't want to do spoilers, so let's just say Ash is like in a totally different place than he was for any of West of the Moon or East of the Sun. And I realized that if I didn't write that journey for him, I needed to write that journey for him. I couldn't move forward. That's good, Zachariah. I'm glad that that works for you. I know some people just like to have a character that just kind of goes and does stuff, but it's important to me that my characters are doing things that make sense for them, and that their reactions for things are in line with themselves. Even if it isn't, even if it doesn't make my plotting easier. I am definitely, when I used to read about writers like this and go, really? But now I'm there. I am one of those writers who my characters can just take a story off the rail with a single chapter. That's me. I'm the problem. So, yeah. I am that person. My characters have their lives. But I like it because what it does for me is when I'm in the middle of a scene, all I need to do is like put myself in that character. I know where they are. I know what their, you know, what their biases are and their, you know, and their habits and their whatevers. And if I put them in a situation, I can instantly see what they would do. Which makes it, that part of, you know, discovery writing, it makes it very easy, right? As long as I don't ask them to do something that they really wouldn't ever do. But I think that tends to be bad plotting anyway, asking your characters to do stuff that they really wouldn't do. Or that nobody in their right mind would do. Just bringing in... It's kind of a balancing act here between the highlight and the gold color. Like, you don't want to lose the gold color, so I'm doing a little bit of glazing to bring that in again. It's very easy with NMM in small places to lose that gold tone. You want to keep it, so there we go, it's better. Alright, we are almost to the point where I must end the stream. So I think, actually, we did finish all of the gold that I needed to get. Oh, except for we didn't get this sleeve and the underside of the book, but I need to think about how I want to do that anyway. Yeah, I'm so happy you can climb hills again, Kuro. I'm crossing fingers for you to be able to do some big ones this year, too. Oh yes, the sales. Hobby supply sales. That's me when my mini factory goes on a really huge sale. I have to run the other way as quickly as I can. Yeah, I won't have time to do all of this. And then we'll run the Kiki to the car. I already gave her Dramamine, so we should all be good. There we go. So down here on this sleeve, because the book is up above it, it's really going to be all in shadow until it hits that little bit where you're going to get a little bit of reflected light. So I'm going to grab my brown too, and I'm going to shade the gold up here. That looks decent. So yeah, then the only thing we didn't get with the gold is the bottom of the book, which is probably going to be like a sharp highlight on the top and then some under reflections as it gets, I don't know, we'll have to think about it. It's going to be reflected light, so it's going to be the other direction. We'll have to see what we can do. Oh yeah. Yeah, Hero Forge, yeah, we'll see. It'll be interesting to see those, Richard. I hope you get decent quality out of it. Alrighty. It is 10:55 and I must stop so that I can run the Keeks to the vet. Stretch, stretch. Tomorrow we are back to Ms. Sophie. We kind of were working on the wings a bit. So we are going to continue working on the wings and the back of the wings as well to get that all figured out. Yep. Thank you very much, you guys. Yep. Thanks for the well wishes for the Keeks. Oh, wow. Multiply fractured her shoulder. Oh, no. Oh, no, Richard. Crazy. Well, good luck. Good luck. That's going to be rough for that for your mate. All right, everybody. I hope you have a lovely day, and I will be back tomorrow with more painting. All right? Let's hope that Kiki manages to hold her stomach in the car. But if not, I have dog blankets for a reason. All right, everybody. Have a good one, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.